Welcome, everyone, to the Preschool Mindfulness Summit. I'm really excited to introduce you to Dr. Stefanie Goldstein. She is coming to us from mindfullivingla.org, and she's a busy mom to 3 boys, a licensed clinical psychologist, a mindfulness educator, and the co-founder of the Center for Mindful Living in West Los Angeles. She's also the co-creator of the Good Morning America featured popular teen program CALM, which stands for Connecting Adolescents to Learning Mindfulness. And she's worked with lots of schools, public and private, all throughout the Los Angeles area, implementing her curriculum. And she's done lots of other things, research and all kinds of things. She runs retreats, which she's going to tell us a little bit about later on as well. And just want to say welcome and thanks so much for coming on the summit today, Stefanie.
Thanks so much for having me. I'm really happy to be here.
Great. So all Stefanie's websites and bio, social media links and information about the retreat will be on her speaker bio. And she's also kindly given us a resource called Raising a Mindful Family, which you can get on that link as well. But today she's going to talk to us a little bit about self-care and mindfulness and how that translates into a preschool or early elementary classroom. So tell us first of all what you mean by self-care, Stefanie.
Well, as I'm sure your audiences know by now what mindfulness is, but I will just do a quick little intro into that so that we have a foundation. So mindfulness at its most basic definition is awareness. And if we extend that a little bit further, it's really awareness without our lenses of judgment, with a kind attention. So just tuning into our present moment experience. And when we are stressed, it's often because we're actually not in the moment. We're in our minds somewhere else, either lamenting over something that happened in the past that we're upset about and still trying to work out, or nervous and anxious and worried about something that might happen and is going to happen. And so when we become disconnected from this moment, that is when there is dis-ease that happens, there's disconnection, we can feel dysregulated. And I even know for myself as a parent, if I'm on my phone trying to finish an email and then my kids are trying to get my attention, and I'm feeling even more stressed and, more likely to kind of be like, just give me a minute and, be more snappy or irritable. In the classroom, that's a little microcosm in a parent-child dyad, but in the classroom, if your mind is somewhere else, if you're not really tending to yourself, then that absolutely is going to come up. And, really, I have the most deepest respect for all teachers, and particularly for the littles, because having had 3 kids myself and been in many, many classrooms, the younger they are, the harder it is because they're like herding cats in a lot of ways. And so it takes exceptional human with so much patience and love and care to be a preschool teacher and a classroom teacher. And so I just really want to honor that. And it's one of the reasons why I'm so passionate about bringing mindfulness and social emotional education to teachers and to the classroom. And when I first started doing this work, I was brought in to do work just with the kids in the classroom. And I very quickly learned that it just fell flat. A few kids that were going to connected to it, and the rest were sort of, bored or waiting for it to be done, or, they had no real connection. And so I found my entry point was actually the teachers, because they are the holders. They're the holders of the space, the holders of the energy, the feeling, because of course a classroom is a top-down environment in a lot of ways. Even if there's a lot of, collaboration with the students, it's still the teacher is holding that space. And there's just so much that is asked of our educators, and the support systems are so often not in place, and not because schools don't want to support them, but because of funding and time and all the requirements. It's just really hard to create space for that. And I have found that teachers that are not able to carve out ways to take care of themselves, and this can range from taking a hot bath at night to, really meditating every day to exercising. There's a wide variety of what self-care means. And sometimes we can think of self-care as, zoning out, watching TV at night. And I think that is definitely a form of self-care. But if that is the only form that we're doing, we're not actually tending to our hearts. We're giving ourselves an opportunity for our nervous system to kind of take a break, which is super important, and I do frequently, so there's no
Yeah.
but it's the idea of how do we do those things as well as the things that really deepen our connection to ourselves and tend to our tender hearts and refill our cups so that when you go back into the classroom and you come home to your family, you are not an empty vessel, but you can really show up in the way that you want to.
Yeah, so important. And as you said, it can be a very rewarding job, but also a very stressful job as well. So tell us a little bit about what teachers, I mean, you mentioned a few different activities and things, but what could teachers do when they're in the classroom, in the moment, facing that kind of stress with the students? Are there some techniques that they can use in those kind of moments of overwhelm?
So one of the best things to do, both as a parent, because I'm sure you're going to have some parents watching this.
Yeah, definitely.
But one of the best things to do, both as a parent and as an educator, is to model your own way of regulating yourself in the moment. So one of the things that I've seen teachers do that is so powerful, and I've done in the classroom and I've done with my kids, is when one of the ways that I teach is talking about, we each have a thermometer, right? And we can feel there's usually some physical cues we're getting. Our heart rate might be going faster. Our body might be tensing up. There could be heat. It could be jaw. There's many ways that we can connect to within ourselves. Okay, my thermometer is rising. You can feel when you're starting to get frustrated and irritated, or, you might click your lid in some way. And so that is a perfect moment to say, hey, you know what, class? I am noticing that my thermometer is starting to rise. We're going to just take a moment and everybody take a big breath. We're just going to pause. And then you take a big breath. It feels good to place your hands on your belly or on your heart in some way. Even give yourself a hug. Some people like to cup their face. And really teaching kids these self-regulation tools. And so in that moment, you're saying, wow, I'm really noticing my thermometer is rising. And so instead of just letting it continue to rise, time out, and really which is a time in, and tend to myself, take a big breath. Sometimes I'm needing 3 big breaths. Connect to my body in some way that feels nurturing and grounding. And do it together, because if you're feeling that, more than likely, a lot of the kids are feeling it, that the energy is starting to rise. And they also regulate. And then you say, okay, now let's go. And then you do with whatever's going on. And even just that one breath can shift a moment in a very profound way. And take a classroom that was about to go off the rails for a teacher that was feeling like off the rails, and actually regulate their nervous system. And what a beautiful moment of modeling and teaching all at the same time. Of, yeah, okay, this happens. It even happens to your teacher. It even happens to your adult. And it's important to know what's going on inside of yourself and take that pause and take care of yourself. And that it's a vulnerable thing to do, but it's actually such a beautiful thing to do and to demonstrate to our kids of you're connected to yourself, you're aware, you're making choices and taking actions to take care of yourself. And then no big deal, moving on from there.
Yeah, I love that, Stephanie, because I think you're right. First of all, like the kids notice and the energy gets changed when the teacher's stressed out. There's lots of research about that now. And then I love what you said about doing it together and modeling that and showing kids it's normal. This is what happens. And this is one way that we can deal with it. So yeah, I love that.
To use, as I'm sure someone probably talked about, the glitter jar. Yeah, but one of my kids made this in their classroom, and so you can have one. There's lots of recipes online. You can just Google, but you can make one of these and shake it up in the classroom. You can even have a bigger one. And when you're starting to feel the swirling energy, say, okay, have one of the kids come and shake it, and then rest it on the table, and then everybody just takes breaths and watches it until it becomes still. And to me, one of the greatest things, because there's so much creativity in educators and in the classroom, and because mindfulness is really just about awareness, you can turn anything into a mindfulness practice. And so the creativity is endless. And so these are just ways of just, stopping and taking a breath, or using the glitter jar, or you can have bells or make sounds and then, listen to the sound until it ends and have everyone kind of raise their hand if you hear the end of the sound. There's a multitude of entry points. And so it's finding the one that fits for you and for your classroom. There's no one way to do it.
Yeah, I love the visual of the glitter jar as well. I think it's such a great tool, and I think it's really important to find your own way, as you said. So, what would you say for teachers? We always do have quite a lot of people on the summit who, they just keep hearing about mindfulness and it's beneficial, and but they haven't really tried anything. What would be just the first step for them personally as a teacher to kind of bring that into their own lives, probably before the classroom?
And again, when I first started going into schools and I would go into the classroom and I realized, without connecting to the teachers, it's so hard to make any real contact. And there's a couple ways that we can think about bringing mindfulness and social emotional awareness into the classroom. And one is through activities in a very activity-based manner, which is super important and a big part of it. But really before that, the foundational piece is a way of actually being an embodied, mindful teacher. And that means you're connected to your own self, that you're aware of what's going on in your mind, in your body, in your emotional state, and that you are tending to that in some way that you would care for yourself. And then you are bringing that presence into the classroom, and the kids can feel the difference. And so absolutely the first way is just to start with yourself. And both the apps, Headspace and Calm, have been free for teachers at different times. So I highly recommend checking those out, because I think most people feel a little bit lost on where to start if you've never
Exactly. Yeah.
Doing this right. We all have the picture of. But I always tell my kids when I teach, I'm like, I've never meditated like that. It's not even necessarily the different type of meditation than mindfulness meditation. So you can totally do this, but just know my hands are using like there's nothing, special to support our bodies. And I like to sit on a couch so my back has a rest to it. That's okay too. And even just starting with one breath, that you are paying attention to how the breath goes in your nostril, fills your belly, holding it for a moment, and then releasing it and watching it come back out. Even just starting with that, one breath each day. And just then maybe check 2 or 3, or maybe just do that throughout there's formal practices, which is of course sitting in meditation 20-30 minutes. And then there's informal practices, which I find incredibly helpful, where I'm checking in with myself throughout each day to really regulate. One of the ways that I feel stress, and this is common for many people, is in my shoulders. And my shoulders will kind of tense up and pull in. And so I now have a daily 20 million hands a day practice where shoulders and noticing like, oh,
Yeah.
really stretching them out, lowering them, breathing into those tight spaces back here, just finding ways to connect to ourselves and be aware in the moment to moment. To notice, oh, like I need a little attention. And it doesn't have to be, you don't have to stop teaching and do a big thing. You can even continue teaching while you're dropping your shoulders, or even saying, hey guys, I'm noticing I'm feeling a little stressed. Let's just stretch for a minute, and have everybody stretch their arms and take a deep breath and shake it out. Okay.
Yeah, I think it is those little moments, isn't it, more? But for me, it is more than that kind of longer practice, which is helpful as well. But it's that checking in, as you said, throughout the day that I personally find is something that's been very, very helpful, because the same thing, like I always get it in my shoulders as well, and then kind of start noticing, and yeah, exactly. Show for the computer. Yeah. So Stefanie, just for so teachers that are really interested, maybe they've started a personal practice and they want to bring this into their schools, as we think of like a whole school culture. Do you have any recommendations that you've seen work well to bring it in, as part of the school culture, involving parents maybe and meetings and things like that?
So that's a really big question. So I'll try to give a succinct answer to it, but it has many different facets. If you're trying to bring it into a school in just even the introductory way, you start with an hour. So you find the one teacher, the one person who is open, who's interested in it, and you volunteer in that classroom. Or if you're the teacher, you just start in your own classroom and just with it. Start here, start with a mindful breath when they come back from outside play. Start as you move into an activity, you have everybody feel their feet and feel their hands, and, and then they go into the activity. Or if you're working with play, notice of the temperature and the colors. And, there's ways to just start really small and where you're at. If you're kind of beyond that point where that's already happening and there's openness and multiple teachers interested, then of course having buy-in from the administrators is hugely important, because as I said earlier, education system is down. So I have seen actually a lot of bottom-up mindfulness programs come into education. I think that's actually how it's really happened. And now it's happening more from the top. The first example was kind of the bottom-up, start in the classroom, wherever you are. And then you really want to make a systemic change, which is very hard to do, but not impossible, and takes time and patience. You then start with the administrators and really get the buy-in and support. And then going with really supporting the teachers and training them, giving them experiences of mindfulness and support, consultation about how to integrate this into their classrooms. Absolutely. Getting the parents involved and connected. And so where I am for the last 5 or 6 years, I've brought my mindfulness program into my kids' school, which is a K-8 school. I've trained all the teachers. I've done parent ed nights. I've done parent videos that get sent home, because I'm can show up to parent ed nights in 5 minutes, so they're super digestible. And then we've gone into the classrooms. We've helped support the teachers to then be able to take over. With the idea being that myself and my teachers become obsolete, really, and that it just lives within the culture. And then now I'm in the process of bringing it into the entire Santa Monica and Malibu school district, which of course is a much larger challenge than
yeah.
school. And I'm like, oh yeah, this is hard. It's hard.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
One of the main things I say when teaching teachers about, and parents in bringing mindfulness to their kids is that are planting seeds. And sometimes they're going to be super squirmy and look like they're not paying attention at all. And it's okay. They're hearing it. They're receiving it. The more you bring it in and the more you practice, the more they will begin to tolerate their discomfort with it. They're not knowing what this is, their boredom, their, all the things that emerge.
Yeah.
I think part of doing this is allowing that to be there. That it's okay that not everybody's into it. It's way more than okay that not everybody closes their eyes, because in fact, in teaching from a trauma-informed lens, you don't want to require anyone to close their eyes because it's actually not safe for them. And so, you just ask them to gaze softly at the floor in front of them or the carpet if you're sitting in circle time. And that's okay. Or you give them a point to look at so that their eyes are somewhere. And especially with the little ones, a lot of body somatic practices are really helpful, because it's a big ask for them to sit quietly and focus on their breath. With preschoolers, they can usually, starting with 1 is totally great. Sometimes 3, we can get a little bit further. And you just play and practice. There's a reason why we call it a practice.
Yeah, I love that, all those ideas. And I think, also what you're saying is work from wherever you are and how things are. Every school is different, isn't it? And every school district, so you've got a big challenge there. But yeah.
Play culturally between who you are, who the student body is, what's appropriate. Being very respectful of differences in socioeconomic status and race and culture and gender identity.
Yeah.
Holding those things in mind. And, we think about that a little bit less in preschool, but it's still completely relevant.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Well, thanks for sharing all those great practical ideas and some of the theory and things behind that. And I wanted to ask you a little bit more about your retreat, because one thing I'm quite excited about, the retreat. So tell us, where it's held, what happens at this retreat, and who is it for?
So my husband and I, who you will also see on this summit, are both clinical psychologists and mindfulness educators. And we had been on retreat, of course, before having kids. And then when we started having kids, we wanted to find a way where we could still connect to our practice and have our kids have the experience of learning about mindfulness and be together as a family and, go on vacation and have fun, but it also be really meaningful. And we just couldn't find it. So we looked at each other and we said, I have to create it. Those things are created in the world. You look for it and you say, okay, I got to do it. And so this is now, I think, our 4th or 5th one. And it's for families ages 8 and up. So it's a little bit older than the preschoolers. And most families. And so we have to make sure that kids can really take care of themselves. And, that parents can have the opportunity to have some of these practices while their kids can play and they don't have to worry about them. And so we take these 5 days. This time it's in this beautiful 5-star barefoot retreat center called Imiloa in Costa Rica. And it's June 15th through the 20th. And really for these 5 days, we completely take care of you. All you have to do is show up. And we have meditation, we have play where we go ziplining and paddleboarding, and we do a lot of time together as families where we learn how to communicate and how to connect more. And then we separate people out where the parents have their time and the kids have their time. And mostly it's just fun. And even this mindfulness thing, we have so much fun that shared was such an incredible experience that they end up connecting to it, and they all are doing it together. So it's this really beautiful shared connection. And so we have a couple spots open for families, which I know will go fast. So if you're interested, please reach out. And if not,
Yeah.
for the future. But it's really a transformative, magical, deeply connecting experience.
Sounds amazing. I'm sure lots of people watching would be really interested. It's a great idea, first of all, I think, and and I love that you said it's mostly fun because that's really important, I think, when we're having a break. But yeah, developing that connection with yourself and a deeper connection with your kids and with others, probably with your spouse as well, if you're going with your spouse or yeah. So
We also had many single parents come, and that's actually a really great environment because they
okay, yeah,
single parents.
yeah, exactly, yeah, definitely. So
All families are welcome.
yeah, amazing. Well, thank you so much, Stefanie. Again, we'll have the details of the retreat and all Stefanie's website, social media, and her article, Raising a Mindful Family, for you on her link and how you can contact her. But I just want to say thanks again for coming on and for sharing all that amazing information with us.
My pleasure.
Thanks.